Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. It's been a really big week, and it feels like a long time since I recorded last because last week I recorded early so that I could go to the Grand Prix for the 4 days of the event. So that was last weekend. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was so cool. If you are familiar with the F1s, you would know that it was an absolutely crazy race with red flags and crashes and fires and all sorts of things. So it was a really fun one to be at. The rest of the weekend was really great too. There was the V8s and other races as well. They had the F2s and the F3s there. So plenty of racing to watch. We had awesome seats in the grandstand. They were they were just after the start finish line. You could see the podium really clearly. We could see the first few pits, so we could see Red Bull, Ferrari, and who was next to them? Mercedes. So we could see the first sort of three and what they were doing a little bit, and we could see the start finish line. We had grandstand, big TV screens right in front of us, and the grandstand was covered. So we had great views. We didn't get too wet when there was a little bit of rain. It was sheltered from most of the wind because it was reasonably cool. The days were pretty good. It rained on the Friday, and then most of the rest of the time it was cold or cool, but and the sun was out a little bit. So it was nice to have that shelter. There were so many people there, even on the Thursday and Friday when there wasn't really any F1 action at all. So it was nice to have a designated spot to sit, and you could sort of wander around a little bit and then come back to the seat, and it felt like you weren't in this vast crowd of people. The only time that it did feel like that was when we were leaving at the end of the day. We took the tram back on the first day and it was packed, and that was only like 70,000 people there or something. And they were saying it was going to be sold out for the rest of the weekend. So the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we actually walked back from the track to the city to our car. It was only about 2.5K, reasonably flat, and so much better than being packed in to a train like a sardine. We were out in the open. Once we were sort of outside of the venue, there was no crowds. It dispersed really quickly. And we were able to just get on and walk and get back, I'm sure, before a lot of other people even got onto a tram. So again, a week of actually not being around the farm all that much. Then Monday, I was exhausted from the weekend, so didn't do a lot, sort of, caught up on the laundry and cleaning up a little bit. And then it has been fairly almost wintry. It's turned quite quickly. It's supposed to be super cold today, but it's actually not so far. So it'll be interesting to see if some storms come in later that change that. We've had quite a bit of rain over the last couple of days, and it is it's starting to really turn. I was walking through the stock round this morning and mushrooms have just appeared. So they literally weren't there yesterday and they are there today. So the seasons are changing very quickly, and the grass is getting green. I'm not giving the sheep hay every day now because there is grass that is growing and is doing quite well in their paddock. And I think probably next week after, we'll see how it goes. They will get another little turn out in the shed grass area because it is growing back really well. So I'll give them a few days of that and then take them back out again, just to give them some extra grass, and so that I'm not doing sort of the hay every other day. They can just have some proper grass time for a little while, and that'll help their big paddock to recover because they'll focus on the new stuff first. So once the Grand Prix was done, I was back deep into She's Crafty market prep. It is next weekend, the 15th of April. So if you're in the Thornbury area or even in Melbourne area and want to come along to a really great yarn and craft market, make sure that you come along and say hi. I would love to see you. So yeah, I'm all about the preparation for She's Crafty right now. I've got a large batch of sock yarn drying at the moment, and I've got another lot that is soaking ready to dye this afternoon, and that will be my last batch, because I still need time to get it dry, rescanned, labeled, and packed. So I have to call it quits at some point, and that's when it will be. So I have plans to do those tonal solid colors that I did on DK. I'm going to repeat those on the sock yarn as well. So I've got them on both if you're interested in seeing those at She's Crafty. And I'm up to making decisions about how my table is going to look this time around. I have a single trestle table space this year like I did last year, but I want to do some different stuff. So I talked about researching mesh grid walls, and I went ahead and drove over to a shop in Dandenong. It's like a showroom that has, I think it's called Shop for Shelves. So it's literally just shelving. And I purchased two white mesh walls that are on a stand, and a whole lot of hooks to go onto them. And at the moment, I'm playing around with having my table and then putting the two mesh walls behind on either side. And then, so I'm just using like the top half of each for hanging space. And then that opens up the table a little bit more to have some space. Because I want to try and still bring a ton of yarn, because I don't know, that's just the way I like to do it. I like to have a lot on display, a lot of color and a lot of yarn. And having it in the baskets that I've been doing the last few shows, kind of clutters up the table. And if I've got extra table space, that's great. I can spread it out. But when I'm just using a single table, it becomes, there's no room to put down samples or for customers to sort of put things out and look at things. So I am trying to clear some of that table space. So yeah, I'm going to have these two racks behind the table. I'm going to strap them to the table just because I don't want them to move or tip or anything like that. So I want it to be nice and secure. And I'll be hanging yarn on both of the top halves. So I'm working on the final layout at the moment. I've had a couple of different tries, and I'm getting there. It's not quite right yet, but I'm getting there. So I'll do a few more practices this coming week, especially once I find out from the She's Crafty girls where my table will be, because that will give me a bit more of a sense of how I should position and focus and have things displayed so that it is the best for the traffic that's walking through. I've also worked out that with the yarn on the hooks, I can pack them into my tub on the hooks, so it'll be nice and easy and quick to take out and hang the hooks up, and all the yarn will still be on. Then I'll have all of my spare yarn in different bags and tubs that I can then restock from. So I've still got to kind of work out how the restock's going to work, because the shelving blocks the back of the under of the table where I'd normally put the tubs that I restock from. So I just kind of got to play around with how I'm going to set up the back of the shop so that I can make that work the best. As I said, I'm still playing around with layouts. I may possibly still use my 3 cube pink thing, but I don't think I'll have enough room on the table to properly use that, as well as have 2 sets of hanging space. So I will use that for other markets where I potentially don't take the hanging space with me, or where the mesh walls on either side of the table, and then I can put the cube on the table. So if I've got bigger space, and there are some markets coming up where I've got more of a booth space as opposed to just a table, I can now be a lot more flexible with how I rearrange everything and sort of tailor it to the specific market and the yarn stock that I have at the time, which is kind of quite fun. There's sort of a creative element in that, as well as in creating the colors on the yarn, how to display it, and different ideas of things to use for display is also a really creative process. So talking about the cubes, I have done a little improvement on them. I went to Bunnings and I bought a big piece of MDF, and I went into the trade area and I asked if they could cut it to size for me, because I thought that I should put some dividers into the cubes, because then it's actually easier for customers to get yarn in and out because it's not all stacked really tight. It kind of gives it compartments. So what I did is, you can see here, I got this. So it's just a piece of well, it's not cardboard, it's just a piece of plywood that was cut to the exact size to go diagonally across the box. And it will split it in half, and I can stack yarn on either side, and it's going to make it a lot easier to get in and out. So I've done that, and I've also got some spare pieces so that if I decide to use these boxes vertically rather than horizontally, I can put the other bits of ply across the top to create a shelf on top. So yeah, I've got a few different flexible options now in terms of how I can set up my whole displays for markets. And I've also updated and added photos to my iPad gallery that I had at the Yarra Valley Wool Show. So if you saw that there are some new images there. Thank you if you have sent anything through to me since then. I will be continuing to add new photos as I see projects. So if I'm tagged on Instagram, or if you send me something, I will be definitely adding it to my gallery. I'm really loving seeing all of those finished items or works in progress and having them added to the images of my yarn being worked up into projects. Honestly, I have done pretty much zero crafting this past week. I mean, there was 4 days that I was literally away from morning till night, just came home and slept and got up and went back to the Grand Prix again. Then I took a little road trip over to the shop to get the mesh walls for my displays, and I've just been super busy with the prep for markets. So at the end of the day, or when I've had some spare time, honestly, I've just been binging TV shows and staring off into space and not really doing a lot of crafting. I've done a tiny little bit more on my wool and my pine shawl, but if you're interested in seeing that, maybe just go back to last week's episode to check out how it was looking, because there really wasn't enough progress to be able to see much of a difference. I've only just done a couple more rows. I'm fine with having not done a ton of knitting. Sometimes that's just the way that it goes. So I'm enjoying doing all of the other creative and things related to yarn, and not actually the craft itself so much. I did do a tiny little bit of tidying, and quite embarrassingly, I discovered that I've got about 8 finished objects that still need all of their ends woven in and trimmed, and some of them need to be blocked. So that's a little bit embarrassing. I think what I do is I get it off the needles, show it here, and then go, yep, that's done. And I forget that I actually need to weave in the end so that I can wear them, especially the socks, because there's either like the big long bits of yarn hanging off the end, and they're not very comfortable to wear when you've got bits of yarn hanging off them. So that's a little project that I need to get onto so that I can actually wear some of the things that I've been making. So maybe I need to discipline myself a little bit to do that, or even just create a pile. And when I'm not feeling like maybe doing knitting quite so much, I might just be able to grab a tapestry needle and just do a little bit of weaving in instead. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.